John McDonnell, Shadow Chancellor, do you really think you and Corbyn can walk into Downing Street, take the keys to the different houses and get to work in a totally different way than any other Labour government has ever done, without being basically destroyed within weeks or months by the combined pressure of all the, you know it, you've been on the left for 30 years, the civil service, the state, there's a general who apparently wants to overthrow Corbyn, the Sunday Times knows who he is, we don't. No, but it's serious, John, because this is what our members want, Labour members want to know.
It will be a whole community coming to power, not just an individual party or individuals within that party.
And you think the Sun and the Mail and the gentlemen's clubs of Pall Mall are going to like the idea of the whole community coming to power?
Of course,
and sit down and do nothing.
Of course they won't. And that's why the whole of the establishment is coming at us now. I expect that. But this is the 1% saying to 99%, you can't have what you want. Or how dare you elect a socialist leader? What we're now saying is actually that 99% is going to have a voice, but not just a voice. They're going to be involved in government at every level to transform our society. Radically transform. What sort of society do we want? We want a radical transformation where society is fairer, more equal, more democratic, based upon a prosperous economy that's economically and environmentally sustainable, where that prosperity is shared by all. We're the sixth richest country in the world. Don't tell me that we have to have 1 million people going to food banks every year, and don't tell me we have millions on housing waiting lists and that we have people sleeping in sheds in parks, etc. Well, there's no need for any of that. We just need to harvest our resources effectively.
But almost a generation of people have grown up thinking that if the government spends too much, economic growth falls back and we bankrupt the country. How are you going to avoid all of that?
Well, that's why we're in the mess we are, because the government, unfortunately, has failed to invest. And as a result of that, we've got the worst of all worlds. We have a large deficit, increasing debt, and at the same time, our fabric is not matching what we need as a competitive economy. So one of the ways we want to do that, the mechanism for this, is set up a national investment bank, have regional arms of that bank, and that then will invest. We're talking about, from government and the investment bank, £500 billion. That's basically what's been assessed about what we need to bring our infrastructure up to scratch in a modern economy. That 500 billion is made up of this. 250 billion directly invested in our infrastructure from government.
So that'll be borrowed?
It will be borrowed at the cheapest rates in our history. Secondly, 100 billion into the investment bank. That will prize open at the leverage rate set by, very conservatively, by the European Investment Bank, another 150 billion. What that gives us is a real opportunity to modernise our economy. So that means we'll end austerity, but more importantly, the fiscal credibility rule enables us to invest in the long-term growth of our economy.
People hear the phrase National Investment Bank. When they get their heads around it, they think fine. They might even think fine, spend 350 billion of taxpayers' money if you think it's going to work. But what does it deliver to ordinary people tangibly within 5 to 10 years of coming to power?
Well, first of all, it will deliver 1 million new homes. 500,000 of those will be council homes, and just that's a minimal target that we're aiming for. So roofs, decent homes, decent roofs over people's heads. 1 million jobs. Where will they come from? Well, they'll come from, investment in infrastructure. Our transport structure desperately needs investment, particularly in the north. There's a lot of investment going to travel north to south into London, but actually not across east to west, and that's needed if we're going to develop our industries up there. It would be in new technology. Our broadband speeds are atrocious in comparison with parts of the world, and if you're going to ensure that you spread the wealth and development around our country, you need new technology investment in broadband in particular. 1 million new jobs in the green industries. What does that mean? It means insulation of homes and public buildings. It means solar, wind power and wave power. All the technology that we've researched and developed, but never actually ensured that we've invested in this country. It means that the state invests in things like research and development and science, which has been cut under this government. You help those entrepreneurs and those research institutes develop the products, create the markets, and that creates the jobs and the prosperity.
You're talking about investing hundreds of billions via a national investment bank of taxpayers' money, which is borrowed. People have spent years saying borrowing's terrible and it's going up and we need to stop it going up. Let's be clear, at the end of that period, the debt of the country will be higher.
virtually everybody, apart from this government now, recognises our failure up to date because our productivity is so low. It's because we haven't invested. So what we're saying is that we borrow, and it's the cheapest rates in our history at the moment to be able to borrow. Let's borrow in the short term, invest for the long term, and in that way grow the economy. It will pay for itself. More people will be in work. In growing that economy effectively by investing properly, it means people will be on higher wages, they'll be paying appropriate amounts of taxation. We're not talking about increasing income tax or anything like that. The growth of the economy will pay for that investment. Now, that's the way any private company works. If you're running a private company, you make sure you sell your products, you make the profits, but you invest in the machinery. You're always ahead of the game. You invest in your machinery and plant to make sure you're competitive.
What kind of firm do you think will look at the arrival of Jeremy Corbyn in number 10 Downing Street and you in number 11 and go, hooray, let's now invest in Britain? Well, have you any ideas?
Right, let's be clear about this. I've been on platforms with the CBI, Federation of Small Businesses, Chamber of Commerce, time and time again. What's interesting, for the past 10 months since I've been Shadow Chancellor, we've been on the same page as every one of those organisations. The only people who haven't been is our own government. Now that even the government is beginning to address some of the issues that we've been raising over those last 10 months, but they won't do it effectively, they won't do it on any scale, and they certainly won't be doing it fairly.
If the tide is turning, if respectable mainstream people are now saying neoliberalism is no good, why do they need you?
Because the Tories are not going the way in which will be effective, and also will still continue to create the inequality that we now have that so disfigures our society. Yes, there'll be lip service to a future investment by the current government, but it won't be on any scale that's needed. In addition to that, that investment won't spread the wealth of our country, and we'll still have the same problems that we have now of low-paid jobs, unskilled workers, exploited by, unfortunately, sometimes unscrupulous employers.
The silly season attacks on you and Corbyn are nothing compared to what they'll do when you start spending 500 billion, 350 billion of which is taxpayers' money, on railways, schools, hospitals. They're going to take you apart.
Of course they're going to come for us.
And Labour members need to understand that.
Of course they are. And I think Labour members are up for us. Shall I tell you why?
Why?
Because in their communities, soon after we put that investment in, people in their communities will have a roof over their heads. Their children will be able to afford a home. They'll have the public services that they need. Their environment will be improving. They'll know that we're tackling long-term issues like climate change as a result of that as well. But also, they'll be part of the decision-making process. I want to devolve economic policy to the lowest level we possibly can. Investment decisions at the local level, building up local economic plans, making sure the local regional investment bank is working with the local authority and the local community to tackle those local problems. So yes, of course, the media will come at us at different stages, but by our concrete results on the ground, our support, I think, not just will hold solid, I think it will grow. And that's what we're seeing as we float these ideas.